Hello and welcome to my review session of 2018 from last year. Basically, top games that I have played, finished. I count VNs as games, FYI, because people are going to inevitably be like, oh, the VN is a game. I see them as games because I enjoy them the same way. It doesn't really matter anyways. It doesn't really matter anyways when you get down to it. But before that, I have other games I'd at least like to talk about, make some comments on. So I'm going to go quickly through some of them in no particular order. Let us begin. Tiptop Simulator is exactly what it sounds like. It's a program that puts a virtual table where you can connect with other people online and do things you do on a table together. For example, the only thing I really use it for, and really what I'm going to be talking about here, is I play D&D with my friends on it on a regular basis. Now, it's not perfect. You can do custom things, you can download custom things, you can put in custom content, but at the same time, the UI isn't amazing. There's a lot of things that have broken over time of us, like, a year plus of doing the D&D sessions where, like, my character, like, little thing for that is, like, constantly in the T-pose now, and we can't get it out of it. It's funny in its own way. It's definitely glitchy, but at the same time, from a purely functional perspective, we haven't really had any problems in that regard. Now, I primarily mention this simply because I've spent so much time in that, whether it's just leaving it somewhere or not. It's over 200 hours at this point. It's impressive, and it really is a great tool to use in ways you want to use, even if it's not perfect. And really, whether it's a good tool for you depends on exactly what you want out of it, as it provides a sort of 3D environment to do things that you can do, say, in like a 2D environment like other places might provide. And it lets people come together in a room and do a bunch of different stuff, and it's very free, and you can do a lot of different... It's a very useful tool, in the end, to do a lot of things you want, and I would recommend it if you have something in mind that you want to do on it. I'm not sure I'd recommend it to just go out and play the things that are on it normally, but if you have something you want for it that you could do in that, I think it's pretty good. The Old Republic. Okay, I'm not going to try to introduce this one. You either know what this is or you don't. I'm a person who played this a bunch when it first came out, and I just came back to it to play it a bit more. Not as much as other stuff, and I eventually lost my itch to play it, but it was still good. It's a good game. If you ever wanted more just of that BioWare style storytelling, which I've always enjoyed myself, then yeah, it's definitely something that's worth trying, even if they've not been as great in terms of their pricing structure as they used to. Yeah. Essentially, I'm not going to dwell on this too much, but I just basically came back to it, and it's still a good game. It's just not a good multiplayer game for a massively multiplayer online role-playing game, which is impressive in a way. But yeah, I still enjoyed my time with it for whatever it was over this past year. I didn't count the hours. Analog, A Hate Story is an interesting experience. It's not exactly a straight VN or an adventure game visual novel for VN, as it has you delving through archives of information to piece together a story. You take the role of one hired to acquire the logs of a spaceship society sent from Earth generations ago that has since been left adrift and lifeless. You come into contact with the onboard AI on emergency power, and you are guided through the events to find the truth of what happened in the ship as it regressed to an ancient variant of culture over the centuries and inevitably saw everybody on board killed. It's not the most unpredictable plots, engaging gameplay, compelling characters, and it doesn't really cover everything. But delving through those logs to see people's passages and piecing together those ideas on what could have happened is actually really engaging. Given it took me less than a few hours to get to an ending, and there are multiple endings, it never really got boring either. For its length, I definitely recommend a playthrough. Oh, Mass Effect, Mass Effect, Mass Effect Andromeda, the one everyone hates on because EA, everyone hates EA because they can't do anything right. I thought it was fine. I've definitely lost my vigor for games like Mass Effect over the years, so it's hard to tell how much my lesser interest is due to that, because I definitely see it in other games of the same sort that I just have had less interest over the years in. But at the same time, I don't think it was bad. I thought the characters were good. I didn't think everything was quite so engaging, and maybe that's just how tight it is, how it was designed. I feel there's a lot of good decisions they made. I feel there's bad decisions they made. Those facial animations are certainly infamous, but I don't want to delve too heavily into the specifics. But Mass Effect, if you don't know Mass Effect, it is a series about going to space and stuff, and this is the sequence like the original trilogy, where it's sort of a new reboot sort of thing, where they go off to a new thing, the Andromeda Galaxy, and they're trying to recolonize it and all that. I don't think that the open world works too amazingly well, but it was at least sufferable to get through to the extent you needed to get through to advance stuff. I thought the story was pretty interesting, even if it didn't answer all the questions I wanted it to. There's certainly a disconnect between what people thought this could be and what they decided to go with, which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing, but in the end, I enjoyed it enough. I don't dislike the game, even if I don't like it as much as I did the ones in the past. Oh, and I like Mass Effect 3. Everyone hate me now. Tales of Vesperia, the game that I am literally only putting on this because it doesn't really fit my requirements, and would probably be top 5 out of these if I really didn't, if I really actually didn't go by the requirements of I finished in the past year. I don't think I've actually said anything about the requirements I put in this, but it's basically I finished it in the past year. So Tales of Vesperia, it's a game about... Oh god, this is hard to explain. Now that I think about it, it's not really straightforward in the slightest. It's a JRPG. It has a JRPG style story, so if you're okay with that in the first place, then I think the story would be probably to your liking. The thing about the Tales games is that they've always been very good at making you feel like you're going on an adventure, that you're building up the stakes, and they're usually pretty good paced about that narrative as well. Not all of them are amazingly paced, but none of them have failed to at least be enjoyable. This one in particular, it had particularly tight combat that felt like quite enjoyable, satisfying, even if it had its moments. Of course, the music was good, if not all that memorable, probably like most Tales games. So if you've played Tales series before, then you probably like that one. And then its narrative in general has sort of a flip-flop subversion element to it, where you are put sort of on the opposite end, sort of the more villainous, evil side, even if obviously you think what you're doing is right, because no one's evil. It takes the sort of like good versus bad and makes it less straightforward than it really has ever been in these games in the past, which really does a good job of, even if you didn't play Tales of Vesperia, which I didn't, because this is technically I think it's a prequel, technically, which is fine. You don't need that. Which really, essentially, this like flip-flop of it really does a good job of making all the characters a bit more interesting, because, especially if you're a veteran of the series, they don't feel sort of in the same realm as some of the previous ones that might have. And if you're not a veteran of it, then just in general, you don't see many stories like this in the first place, where you have someone who is intentionally trying to do bad things, even if they're not necessarily evil. And for what the Tales series tries to do, this is probably one of the best ones that they've had for what they're going out to try to do in each and every one of these games. So, if it looks interesting to you, if you look at this and you even think once like, maybe I'll like this, then yeah, I'd say this is definitely one that, if that's the case, it's worth a shot.